Picture this. You're watching a teenager seamlessly edit a 4K video.
Oh, yeah.
They curate a soundtrack, apply these really complex visual filters, and publish this perfectly paced piece of media to thousands of people. And they do it all in like under 3 minutes.
It's honestly incredible to watch.
Right. I mean, it looks like pure, unfiltered genius.
Right.
It's the kind of rapid-fire problem solving that would have taken a team of professionals days to do just a decade ago.
Absolutely.
But then you ask that same teenager to sit down and read 2 pages of a standard novel, and they physically cannot focus.
Yeah, that's where the friction happens.
Literally. Their eyes glaze over, their foot starts tapping, they bail after like 3 paragraphs. So what is actually happening inside that brain?
Well, it is the defining paradox of our time, really. I mean, we are looking at a generation that is simultaneously more cognitively capable, yet way more easily distracted than any before it.
And that paradox brings us to a quiet kitchen, first thing in the morning, in a town called Oak Ridge. The early light is just slipping through the curtains. There's steam rising from a fresh cup of tea.
Sounds peaceful.
It does, right? But at the kitchen table sits a teenager named Sam. He's got a bowl of oatmeal sitting in front of him, totally untouched.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah. He's awake, but his eyes are half closed, and his thumb is just mechanically flicking across a glowing smartphone screen that seems practically glued to his palm.
The endless scroll.
Exactly. And when his mom asks if he finished his homework, he just murmurs, "I'm on it," without ever looking up from that endless cascade of short videos.
Right.
The whole room is filled with this soft, constant buzz, the click, click, click of notifications, the low hum of a voice assistant waiting for a command. And if you're listening to this deep dive right now...
Maybe even while scrolling through your own phone.
Right. You know this scene. I mean, it is happening everywhere.
It's an incredibly vivid image, and it gets right to the heart of what we are exploring today.
Yes, because today we are taking a magnifying glass to the absolute panic surrounding digital technology and neuroplasticity, based on a really thought-provoking narrative essay titled, "Is the Use of Social Media and AI Rewiring the Brains of Young Minds?"
It's a fantastic piece, and our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, are we actually breaking our brains, or is this digital age simply giving them a necessary, albeit chaotic, upgrade to survive a world that's moving faster than ever before?
Because, I mean, let's be honest, the panic is very, very real.
Oh, absolutely.
Just take Sam's English teacher, Mrs. Patel. She sits down with a stack of student essays expecting, traditional, careful sentences.
And what does she get?
Instead, she gets a flood of bullet point answers. The formatting is chaotic. It's jumping frantically from one image to the next. It's like the kids are trying to write a whole narrative in the space of an Instagram caption.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge shift in how they process information.
And it gets wilder. When she asks the student why an author used a specific metaphor, the kid literally answers, "Because it's like the vibe of a meme."
Oh, man. You can physically feel the knot tightening in that teacher's stomach.
Right.
And that anxiety, it spills right out of the classroom. At the local community center in Oak Ridge, parents are clutching their coffee mugs, just terrified.
Yeah, comparing notes on their kids.
Exactly. They're comparing notes on teens who can flawlessly recite the lyrics to a pop song verbatim after hearing it on TikTok once,
Right.
but somehow struggle to hold a single train of thought at the dinner table. Parents are genuinely asking if all this constant high-speed connection is making their kids' brains short-circuit.
They really are.
They're worried they are raising, and this is a quote, walking, talking Wi-Fi routers. I mean, it's a visceral fear of permanent cognitive loss.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that word rewiring is getting passed around the teacher's lounge and the community center like a terminal diagnosis.
It really is used as a scary buzzword.
Right. Mr. Alvarez, the science teacher on the essay, says it with this heavy sigh. But I have to push back on this framing. I mean, is rewiring inherently a bad thing?
That's the million-dollar question.
It feels like we've adopted this scary-sounding, mechanical word to describe what is essentially the completely natural, deeply human process of learning.
Yes.
We hear rewiring, and we picture a broken circuit board sparking and smoking, rather than a biological organ just doing what it was designed to do.
What's fascinating here is how society reflexively equates adaptation with damage. We see an attention span that vanishes as quickly as a disappearing photo message, and we immediately label it as cognitive decline.
When it might not be decline at all.
Exactly. The fear embedded in that mechanical metaphor completely ignores the biological reality of neuroplasticity. The brain isn't a static hard drive that corrupts when you plug in a new device.
Right. It's a living thing.
It is a dynamic, living network governed by a principle called Hebbian learning. The simple rule is neurons that fire together, wire together.
Fire together, wire together.
Right. So when you repeat a behavior, the brain literally thickens the neural pathways for that action, making it faster and more efficient.
So when parents see a kid flicking through 10-second videos and losing their focus on a book, they think the brain is breaking. But biologically, the brain is actually performing flawlessly.
Flawlessly. I mean, the brain is an absolute energy hog. It consumes a massive amount of your body's calories.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. Because of that, it has to be ruthlessly efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Through a process called synaptic pruning, it actively eliminates the neural connections that aren't being used to save energy while reinforcing the ones that are.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if a child's environment demands rapid visual processing and constant context switching, the brain basically says, understood. I will build a massive superhighway for quick visual processing, and I will tear up the old, slow country roads used for sustained reading because we aren't driving there anymore.
Wow. We aren't driving there anymore. But you know, if the brain is just doing its job, why do we act like every new piece of tech is a biological apocalypse?
Because change is terrifying.
It is. Because this exact fear, this absolute certainty that the newest tool is going to short-circuit the youth, it's a tale as old as time. There is a great historical parallel here from the source material.
Oh, the 90s computers.
Yes. Think back to those clunky, massive black computers from the 90s, the ones with the dial-up modems that sounded like a screeching, distant train.
I can hear that sound in my head right now.
We all can. But when a kid back then sat in front of a blinking green cursor, learning to type in DOS, parents didn't say their brain was short-circuiting. The framing was, your brain is getting new muscles, learning to talk to machines.
Look at the difference in that perspective, though. It wasn't viewed as a threat to their humanity. It was viewed as necessary skill acquisition.
Right.
We saw the exact same thing with the arrival of high school calculators.
Oh, man. You won't always have a calculator in your pocket.
Exactly. Suddenly, teachers who used to write out long, agonizing arithmetic problems on the chalkboard were asking students to solve them with the press of a button.
And there was a massive panic.
Huge panic. Critics said students would forget how to think. But the students simply realized they now had more cognitive bandwidth for complex algebra and calculus because they didn't have to waste time doing boring multiplication manually.
Makes total sense.
The brain formed new shortcuts, offloaded the execution to the tool, and nobody today views calculator use as a cognitive crisis. It was just a shift in utility.
You know, it feels like we always assume the current version of the human brain is the final perfect software release, and any new update is automatically viewed as a virus or a downgrade.
That is a brilliant way to put it.
Thanks. But seriously, we think the way we learn to process information, like reading physical books, doing manual math, is the biological peak of humanity.
Right, which is just recency bias.
Exactly. When smartphones first came out, people were incredibly skeptical. Why carry a tiny computer in your pocket? Now think about the device you are listening to this deep dive on right now.
It's probably a smartphone.
Of course it is. We map routes, we share photos, we text constantly. We didn't break our brains, we just made room for the new habits.
And if you look back even further, our ancestors had the exact same panic about technologies we now consider the bedrock of civilization.
Wait, really? Like what?
Scholars legitimately worried that the printing press would completely erode human memory.
The printing press.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because before books, you had to memorize epic poems to pass them down. The thought was, why would the brain retain anything if it's stored on paper?
Oh, wow. That's so true.
Later, they worried the radio would dull our imagination and that television would permanently shrink our attention spans. The reality is that the brain has always been a restless builder. Every time you learn to read or ride a bike or speak a second language, you are literally rewiring yourself.
Okay, so if the brain has always adapted, we have to look incredibly closely at what is actually happening right now.
Yeah.
What specific pathways are being built in Sam's brain when he is sitting at that kitchen table?
Right. Let's look at the actual mechanics.
Let's look at that 10-second video with the laugh track. Yes, he is getting a tiny burst of dopamine, a quick reward mechanism. But let's be fair to his brain. He is also rapidly acquiring a completely new set of digital survival skills.
He really is.
In a flash, he learns how to edit a video clip, how to apply the right filter, how to share it seamlessly across platforms. He internalizes that a clever, punchy caption is a highly effective form of modern communication.
Yes.
Furthermore, he is learning to prompt AI assistants to brainstorm school projects, draft poems, or break down complex math problems. That is digital fluency. It is rapid synthesis and visual storytelling.
It's a profound level of cognitive agility.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is truly alien to the brain. It is just another set of environmental inputs demanding attention and promising a reward.
Right.
The brain eagerly lays down massive neural highways for these specific tasks. In the same way that learning to read millennia ago fundamentally reshaped the language and visual centers of early humans, forcing the brain to recognize abstract symbols as sounds, today's scrolling, swiping, and prompting are mapping entirely new cognitive territories.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because as much as I want to celebrate that digital fluency, I have to push back hard on this optimism.
Okay, let's hear it.
Are we losing something vital in this trade-off? I mean, if the brain is actively pruning the old, slow neural pathways that were meant for deep, sustained reading, just so it can widen the shortcuts for quick visual processing, aren't we sacrificing the scenic route of deep thought for a fast food highway?
That's a very fair concern.
It feels like we are trading profound reflection for rapid-fire reaction. A calculator does math for you, sure.
Yeah.
But generative AI does the thinking for you. That feels like a very different kind of outsourcing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to remember the biological reality we discussed earlier. The brain does not judge the moral, intellectual, or cultural value of the pathways it builds.
It just wants efficiency.
Exactly. It only measures utility. It simply reinforces whatever is used most frequently to help the organism navigate its current environment. Deep, sustained reading requires a slow, steady release of neurotransmitters. It requires endurance. The rapid-fire video scrolling, on the other hand, operates on a tight, highly stimulating dopamine feedback loop.
A very quick hit.
Right. So if the brain is constantly flooded with that cheat fast dopamine, the slow, steady pathways genuinely begin to atrophy. The neural pathways that serve long, slow reading become lighter and less reinforced. It is a biological trade-off. We are trading depth for speed.
But recognizing that trade-off leaves us with a massive problem. If the brain is ruthlessly efficient and it's pruning away our ability to read deeply or think critically, how do we stop it?
Well, that's the thing.
You can't just yell at a biological organ and tell it to stop adapting.
No, you can't stop it from adapting, but you can change the environment it is adapting to. Think of the brain less like a hard drive and more like a garden.
Yes, the garden analogy. This is from the source material, and it perfectly conceptualizes how we manage this biological reality.
It's a great metaphor.
It really is.
Yeah.
So if the brain is a garden, the behaviors we engage in are the seeds. When you plant a specific seed, let's say a love of deep, sustained reading, the garden grows a sturdy, deeply rooted oak tree.
Nice and solid.
Right. It takes a long time to grow. It requires patience, but it is solid. It can weather a storm. Now, if you plant a seed of video editing, rapid scrolling, and social media consumption, you get a climbing vine.
Fast growing.
Incredibly fast. It climbs quickly, and it wraps right around that oak tree. Sometimes it shades the tree, but sometimes it adds brilliant new color to the landscape.
And we can map that metaphor directly to the science. That sturdy oak tree represents your heavily myelinated neural pathways, the ones built through sustained effort, focus, and slow neurotransmitter release.
The deep reading pathways.
Exactly. The fast-growing vines represent your rapid, dopamine-driven feedback loops. Social media and AI aren't inherently toxic waste being dumped into the garden. They are just new, highly aggressive seeds.
Aggressive seeds. I like that.
Some of them blossom into incredible problem-solving skills and global empathy. But because they grow so fast, driven by those intense dopamine spikes, they have the potential to completely overrun the space.
Right. Starving the oak tree of sunlight.
Precisely. Crowding out things like face-to-face conversation and quiet reflection.
So we shouldn't be running into the garden trying to rip the digital vines out by the roots in a panic. That's impossible anyway. The digital world is here to stay.
You can't uninvent the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just need to build a trellis so the vines don't choke the oak tree. So what does this all mean? How do we actually build that trellis? How do we control the water and sunlight in this mental garden on a practical level, especially if you are a parent or a teacher trying to guide a young mind?
This raises an important question, and it shifts us from the theoretical neuroscience to the actionable reality. If we are the gardeners, we need the right tools.
Tell me we have tools.
We do. Families and educators in Oak Ridge have been testing a framework to handle this, essentially a mindful gardener's toolkit containing 5 specific strategies.
Okay, let's hear them.
The goal of these tools isn't to stop the brain from wiring itself, but to intentionally shape how it wires, ensuring we provide an environment where the fast pathways of the vines complement the deep roots of the oak.
Let's walk through them, because this is incredibly practical for anyone listening, whether you have kids or you are just trying to manage your own screen time. Tool number 1 is set boundaries, not bans.
Yes, a very important distinction.
I love this because completely forbidding screen time usually just backfires and creates resentment. Instead, the focus is on creating clear windows. Maybe it is an hour of screen time after dinner or a strict rule about no phones at the dinner table.
And the neuroscience behind why that works is crucial. By setting a boundary rather than a ban, you are breaking the dopamine expectation loop.
The expectation loop.
Right. When a phone is always in your pocket, the brain is in a constant state of low-level anticipation for the next ping, the next hit of dopamine.
Always on edge.
Exactly. By creating a physical and temporal boundary, like no phones at the table, you are teaching the brain the rhythm of on and off. Just like the brain learns the difference between playtime and sleep time, it can learn the rhythm of digital engagement and digital rest. You lower the baseline cortisol and allow the brain to relax.
That rhythm of recovery is essential. Okay, tool number 2 is mix media. The idea here is to actively engage different senses and parts of the brain that infinite visual scrolling simply cannot reach.
Yes, tactile engagement.
Right. If someone spends hours visually processing short videos, you balance that by having them paint, or play a physical board game, or take a walk in the woods.
And biologically, what you are doing is physically building parallel neural pathways to prevent the pruning of those deep focus centers. You are forcing the brain to engage spatial reasoning, tactile feedback, and gross motor skills.
You're actively watering different plants in the garden.
Exactly. If you only ever feed the visual synthesis pathways, the brain will assume you don't need the others. Mixing media ensures that a diverse cognitive architecture remains intact alongside digital fluency.
Which perfectly sets up tool number 3. Teach the why. This directly addresses my fear about kids using AI to cheat or stop thinking.
It's a huge concern for teachers.
Totally. So let's say Sam asks an AI to write a paragraph for his history homework. Instead of just accepting it or freaking out and banning the AI entirely, you ask him to read the generated text aloud.
Right.
You ask him to highlight the parts he actually thinks are compelling, and then actively suggest ways to improve the parts that sound robotic.
What you're doing there is demanding cortical engagement over limbic reaction.
Ooh, cortical over limbic. Say more about that.
Well, when you use AI to just generate an answer, you are outsourcing the execution. You're using the fast reactive part of the brain. But when you force a student to critique that answer, you are building a bridge between the fast AI output and slow, critical analysis.
You're bringing the oak tree back into it.
Exactly. You are telling the brain, yes, we have a tool to gather the information instantly, but we still need the deep-rooted oak tree to evaluate if that information is actually valuable. It forces the brain to go beyond the surface.
That is such a smart way to handle it. Tool number 4 is model thoughtful use, and this one is aimed squarely at the adults in the room.
Oh, absolutely. We are often the worst offenders.
We really are.
Yeah.
Parents and teachers need to deliberately pause before they post something online or vocalize their reflection before they respond to a message. Kids notice habits much more than they listen to lectures.
They're always watching.
Always. If you are constantly scrolling at the dinner table while telling your kid to put their phone away, their brain logs the behavior, not the rule. If they see an adult treating technology with intentionality, they recognize that thoughtful use is both possible and socially valued.
It creates a cultural environment within the home that supports the biological boundaries we talked about in Tool 1, which leads right to the final tool, number 5. Create offline zones.
Yes, offline zones.
This could be a dedicated drawer in the living room where all phones go during family movie night, or a strict no-screen hour right before bedtime, or even a weekly tech-free hike.
It's about intentionally breaking that constant alert mode we talked about earlier. The brain needs physical spaces where it isn't anticipating a notification.
It really does.
It gives those deeper, slower pathways a chance to breathe and reinforce themselves without competing against a highly engineered algorithm designed to steal their attention.
All 5 of these tools work in concert. They don't fight the reality of the digital age. They manage it. They build the trellis.
Right.
And we can actually see what this looks like in practice if we return to Sam and his mom later that evening in Oak Ridge.
Oh, back to the kitchen.
Yes. The oatmeal is long gone, the dinner dishes are cleared, and Mom deliberately sets her own phone aside on the counter modeling thoughtful use. She asks Sam what the coolest thing he learned from that video earlier was.
And Sam, instead of just giving a one-word answer, actually shares. He says there's a new viral dance, and he also mentions that he asked the AI to explain a math concept he was stuck on, and it gave him a quick example.
So Mom leans in.
Yeah. She says, let's try the dance together. They engage physically. And then she asks him to explain that math concept to her, using his own words, without looking at the screen.
And he does. He processes the fast AI's math example and explains it back to her manually, utilizing his own cognitive pathways.
That's the cortical engagement you were talking about.
Exactly. It is such a quiet, normal moment, but it represents the perfect synthesis of everything we've been talking about. They built a bridge between the fast, flashy lane of the digital world and the slower, deliberate lane of personal understanding.
His brain is actively reinforcing both routes.
The vines and the oak tree are coexisting.
It really is a beautiful synthesis. The quiet conversation happening inside the brain, laying down new routes, pruning old ones. It's an inevitable, natural part of being alive. Social media and AI are simply the latest winds reshaping the landscape of the mind.
That's a great way to put it.
The core message here is that we shouldn't fear the rewiring. We just have to be mindful gardeners. We must actively choose what we weave into that tapestry. We have to intentionally water the curiosity, the compassion, and the critical thinking.
We provide the environment, and the brain will do the rest, building a resilient mind with roots deep enough to hold fast and branches wide enough to reach for entirely new horizons.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Oh, I like where this is heading.
We have spent all this time looking at how the human brain constantly rewires itself to adapt to new tools like AI. But think about this. As our brains adapt to AI, the AI algorithms are simultaneously learning, updating, and adapting to our new brain patterns.
A two-way street.
Exactly. It is a constant, invisible feedback loop between human biology and machine architecture. So in that loop, who is actually shaping whom?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Please feel free to click on the link in the description below to discover more podcasts.